Good morning, everyone, and welcome. For those of you who have been with us for a little bit, you might have heard some back and forth chatter. We apologize for that. I'm Denis Gertin. I will be facilitating the session today. And the session is entitled Mi'kmaq Ancient History Told in Storytelling Fashion. So I'm joining you from Ottawa, and I've been taking a look at some of the classes that are with us and teachers. And by the way, thank you so much for allowing us into your classrooms today. We know that there are class teachers and students from across the country and a few friends also from the United States. And we welcome all of you to this morning's session. Our knowledge keeper today is Julie Pelletier-Loche. Julie is an author of Mi'kmaq Mother and Mi'kmaq Campfire Stories of Prince Edward Island. We are pleased to welcome you to this session entitled Mi'kmaq Ancient History Told in Storytelling Fashion. Welcome, Julie.
Gwe, Jalasi, Ndeluisi Julie. Hello and welcome. My name is Julie. I am Mi'kmaq, and I reside in this traditional unceded territory known as Mi'kma'ki, and I would like to welcome all of you in peace and friendship. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here and share some of my stories and my teachings with you today. It's such an honor and a privilege to be able to have my voice heard on this day. Now, I thought that I would start because we're going to be doing a lot of interesting stuff with just a quick prayer. It isn't so much a prayer, it's just a wish of hope for everyone. It starts out with Jigaway Niskam, which means come to us, Creator. Thank you, Creator, for the gifts that you have given us and the gifts you continue to give us. Thank you for love, to be able to have love, give love, and recover from the loss of love. Thank you for courage, to be able to look inside ourselves and keep telling our truths even when it hurts. Thank you for wisdom, to know when we are going down the right path and know what we need to share. Thank you for truth, to be able to hear the truth, share the truth, and know that it is good and comes from a good place. Thank you for humility, to know we are not alone, that we must look after each other and take care of each other. Thank you for honesty, to believe in the things that we cannot see or touch, but we know in our hearts is real. Thank you for respect, to know that everything is a gift that we must treasure and respect ourselves and others. Thank you for these gifts that you have given us and for being with us in the good times and the bad. Now, I think I'm going to start with a story. Now, I heard that creation has been done, so I thought I would share just one other small creation story that was given to me by an elder probably about 7 months ago. So it's still fairly new and it's still fresh and good in my head, but it's about something that's very, very special to our Indigenous people here in Apakwit or Prince Edward Island. So long, long ago, when there was first just the Creator or the Wise One who lived in all of the darkness, and it was Him, and He created all the beautiful stars in the sky, and then He created Glooscap. Now, after He did this, they found a little tiny piece of red clay, and they started to play with it and mold it and shape it, and soon it became the shape of a crescent that was beautiful. Now, they both fell in love with it so much, they thought this was amazing, and they wanted to put it up into the night sky so that everybody would have a chance to see it once the sun sets. All they would have to do is look up into the night sky and they would see it everywhere, all over the world. But after a while, they decided that no, I think it was time to put it here on this beautiful planet. And when they looked and looked, they found one place that was called the Laughing Waters. So they knew that if the water was so happy to be there, it had to be the place for this beautiful piece of red clay. So they set the red clay down there, which is now called the St. Lawrence. So they set this beautiful little piece of red clay there. Now out of the darkness came Mikaju, and Mikaju means grandmother in Mi'kmaq. So Mikaju came out of the darkness and looked around, and she wanted to help. So together they touched that red clay, and there became grass and trees and plants and flowers, and they filled the air with all the birds and the insects that could fly, and then they filled the water with everything that we would need to eat and to provide for us. So after all this was done, grandmother took time and she looked around and she started to figure out what medicines were there already on this beautiful island because she wanted to make sure that we would be looked after. So she found all these different things and she stayed with the Mi'kmaq people. And she taught us all the medicine teachings that there was. She taught us that if you chewed the sap off one tree, it would help if you had a toothache. And then if you boiled the root of one plant here, that if you drank the hot liquid, it would help with the fever. She taught us all the things because she knew and we knew that every sickness had a cure here on Mother Earth, and she taught us. She taught us for over 7 generations. She stayed with us and taught us and took the time. And we learned to tell those stories so that we could pass them down to the next generation and the next generation. But after about 7 generations, a few hundred years, she started to get tired. She was a grandmother, right? So she decided that it was time for her to have a rest. And she didn't know exactly how she was going to do it, but she went to the Creator and said, "It is time for me to rest." And the Creator said, "Mikaju, we need you. You connect us to the Mi'kmaq people here on Abagut. And they, when they need us, you connect them to us. So what are we going to do?" She said, "Well, I've given it a lot of thought and I've up with an amazing idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find a small little hole and I'm going to dig a little bigger. I'm going to climb into the hole, lay down, and have a bit of a rest because I'm really, really tired. But what I'll do is I'll leave my hair out of the ground. And when the Mi'kmaq people here need to connect with you or they're having ceremony, then all they have to do is smell for that beautiful sweet smell of vanilla. And when they find my hair, I've taught them that there is a process and a protocol to gathering my hair. You can't rip it out of the ground because you wouldn't do that with grandmother's hair. You cut close to the ground and then you collect enough of it, just what you need. You don't collect more than you need. And then you gather it all up, you clean it just like you would wash your hair. And then after it's all cleaned, you tie it with a red ribbon and then you braid it. You braid that hair just like you would your hair. You braid it, and then as you braid it, there's actually teachings in that too, with your mind, your body, and your spirit becoming one and looking forward for a new positive day. So once you have braided it, then you let it dry because you have to look after the hair properly. Once it is dried, and if you need to connect with the Creator or you need to have ceremony, then you can cut a little bit off that braid, you put it into a shell, and then you light it on fire and you whisper your hopes or your dreams into the smoke, and that smoke will come up to the Creator and still keep you connected. Now, grandmother's hair is actually one of our 4 sacred medicines, and that is the medicine of sweetgrass. And it grows here all over PEI, and it looks just like a blade of grass, a braid of hair. And oh, it smells so sweet and so beautiful. It smells just like vanilla. And the secret of sweetgrass is that if it gets old and starts to dry out a little bit, all you have to do is spray it with a little bit of water and it comes right back to almost when you picked it. And we use that. That's one of our male medicines. And we have 4 sacred medicines that we look to when we're doing ceremony and things like that. But I wanted to share, that was my very first medicine story that was ever taught to me, and I just loved it. So I knew that it's something that I had to share. And now I want to share another set of teachings that I have learned along the way. And every time I go and visit an elder, who is where I usually get all of my teachings from, when I visit an elder and I sit with them and they'll tell me a little story and it'll connect to a story, and then I'll have them all ready and in a row, because that was one of the things that I do is I collect stories, and I love to hear the elders talk about the things that they learned when they were little, because I feel it's part of my duty to be able to pass them along. So, the first one that we're going to do is the seven sacred teachings. And this is a version that is all over Turtle Island. And that's how important these are. The elders, a long time ago, went out and they looked at nature, all the different things in nature. And they decided that they needed to be able to find a way to bring these all back to their communities, their nations, to be able to share it and be able to help their people. Now, this week is going to be a very hard week. So I thought if I share these seven sacred teachings, maybe this will fill everybody's toolbox, build you up so that maybe the stories that you're going to be hearing, the information that you're going to be learning, you're going to have some of those tools in your heart and in your spirit, and you'll be able to move forward in a good way. So the first one that the elders brought back, the teaching was of the beaver. Now, aren't these beautiful pictures? I absolutely love these. When I bring these into the classrooms here in Charlottetown, they absolutely love the colors and the pictures. Now, this is the beaver. Now, the beaver was gifted two amazingly strong front teeth by the Creator. And those front teeth allow him to be able to cut down the trees, be able to feed himself and his family, to be able to make his lodge, defend his family. And then they thought, what if one day the beaver woke up and decided he didn't want to use his teeth anymore? What would happen? Well, those teeth would continue to grow until he wouldn't be able to use them anymore. So the thing is, the Creator has given all of us gifts. Some of us might be super fast runners. Some of us might be amazing at writing stories or drawing beautiful pictures. And the fact is, we have to figure out what our amazing gifts are and keep working on them, keep making them better and stronger. When I was a little girl, I was told one of the things that I was able to do was to tell stories. So even when I was younger, I was the one who was told, it's evening, it's quiet, Julie, tell us a story. And when I first started, I have to tell you, I was a little nervous and a little I didn't think that I might always have the right words to say, so I would be a little shy. But time after time, story after story, you get better and you get stronger, and you're able to share all those things in your heart in such a way that people can connect to it and be able to understand where it's coming from and that it's coming from a good place. So the beaver teaches us that we have to work on all those amazing gifts that the Creator has given us. And one thing that I always tell my students, if you don't know what your special gift is, ask someone who loves you, because they will know right away what your skills are, what your strengths are, because they are invested in you and they love you. So the next one we have is the bear. And the bear means courage. Now, I'm sure everybody here has heard the story that you do not get in between a mother bear and her cubs. And the reason for that is a mother bear is very courageous. A mother bear will defend her cubs, and it doesn't matter if you are 3 feet tall, 5 feet tall, 10 feet tall, 20 feet tall, or even if you're sitting in the passenger side of a car that seems to just to happen to go between a bear and the cubs. You can just imagine that bear will defend those cubs and be so courageous it would not matter to her what or who you are. But at the same time, because the elders didn't watch these animals for just a little tiny bit, they would watch them over a long period of time. And when they watched the bear, they could see that when it was fall and it was time for them to hibernate and go into their dens, those mother bears were caring and nurturing mothers so that when the spring came, those baby bears popped out of the den with so much vim and vigor and ready to start a whole new year. So the teaching is you can be courageous, assertive, protecting, because that's things we do have to do. But we can also be kind and loving and gentle as well. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be both of them. So that was I love that teaching because as a mother, I know what that means when you get stirred up and you become the mother bear, as I said in my introduction. But at the same time, be kind, be, be gentle, because I mean, the world can be a hard place for everyone. Now, the next one is the Sabbath. And the Sabbath, when I take this to my schools here in Charlottetown, they kept trying to tell me it was a Yeti. I guess there must be a Yeti movie out right now. But for me, this is a Sabbath, and the Sabbath is about honesty. Now, the Sabbath story is similar to that of like Bigfoot. I mean, everybody here, I'm sure, has heard about the story of Bigfoot, right? But how many people do you actually think are out there that have seen Bigfoot or have, gone up and shook Bigfoot's hand? I don't think very many of us have, but yet the story is still out there. So I believe from the stories that I've heard from my elders here on Abequid is that sometimes when we have this teaching, it's about believing in things that we might never be able to see with our eyes or ever be able to touch with our hands, but we believe in our hearts. So we can believe that that's true. And this teaching gives us the ability. When I was a little girl, my dad took me outside and he showed me the beautiful night sky. And he was like, Julie, look at all those stars in the sky. And I was like, well, how do you know they're stars? And he said, well, somebody told him that that's what they are. And when I look up, I can just see these lights. And then as I got older, I realized that the light that we see up in the night sky could be hundreds of years old before we actually get to see it. And it's not something that I would actually pretty well be ever able to see up close in person or I'd ever be able to touch. But my dad is pretty honest with me, and I believe in the stories that he shares. So I have to believe that if my heart says, yeah, those are stars, then I believe him. And there's a lot of things in our lives that go along with that as well. So you can imagine it's all about believing in sometimes the things that we cannot see. Maybe it doesn't have to be Bigfoot. Maybe it could be a higher being that your family or your cultural group is connected to. So just keep that in mind the next time that comes up. The next one is respect. Now, respect is put here with the buffalo. Now, the funniest thing is here in Prince Edward Island, I usually would use the moose instead of the buffalo because traditionally the Mi'kmaq people here would have hunted the moose more so than the buffalo. But when I talk to my school children here, the funniest thing is we have a buffalo park here on PEI and it has about 60 to 70 buffalo. So we really do have more buffalo than we do moose on PEI right now. But we'll go back to the traditional times when we would go and we would hunt the buffalo. Now, before the buffalo was given to us, as you can imagine, it was very hard for us to have enough food to last for the whole winter long. We would usually start to get really hungry around February, and then we still wouldn't be able to hunt and gather until March or April when the winter started to subside a little bit. And so we would cry and we would pray to the Creator, and then the Creator gave us the buffalo. Well, He gave us here the moose. But with that came a teaching of respect. We have to respect the sacrifice that the moose gives to us for us to be able to hunt him. So when our hunters go out to hunt the moose, we always bring tobacco and we offer it as a thanks. And we want to thank the moose for their sacrifice, for giving us the opportunity to live. And we respect that he gave up that sacrifice. And it's not just a moose. Sometimes it can be our mom and dad, our granny and grandpa. It could be anyone in our lives who is sacrificing something for us. Now, when the moose sacrifices himself, one of our other teachings, a part of this, is that we do not let anything go to waste. When the moose is hunted, we use the hide for our clothing and our lodges. Traditionally, that's what we would do. We would use it to create our beautiful musical instruments. We would use it for all these different things, the bones we would use to make instruments, because we didn't have like a Walmart or all those other places to get some of our utensils or some of the things we needed. So we would use those parts. And of course, the meat, we would eat the meat and we would share the meat in our community to make sure that everybody had enough. And even the muscle of a moose we use, and we call it sinew. And here on my drum, it has sinew that ties it together. See the sinew in the back of my drum? So every part of the moose gets used when we hunt it, and that's a part of that teaching of respect. The next one we have is the teaching of truth. Now, when the Creator made the turtle, he gave the turtle on his back 13 spots. And there's a whole bunch of teachings around this, and I'm having to go through this a little bit faster than I would usually do. But we will concentrate on the 13 spots in the middle. The 13 spots in the middle made us realize that the Creator was giving us almost like a full year with those, because there was usually 13 moons in every year. So the first one is January moon, and that's the cod spawning moon. And then February is the snow blinding time. March is the maple sugar time. April is birds laying eggs time. May is frogs croaking time. June is leaves fully leafed time. July is birds shedding feathers time. August is berry ripening time. September is mate calling time. And October, which is just around the corner, is the animal fattening time, so that they will have enough food and fat stored up in their bodies for the cold winter. November is the rivers starting to freeze. December is the chief moon time. Now, if you can imagine, all of these different names of all of our moons refer to stuff that's happening here on Mother Earth. But the last one is about what's happening up in the sky, which is actually really cool. And if you do have time, you should look it up and check it out, all their stories of each one of these moons. Now, the next one we're going to do is the wolf and humility. Now, I like this one. This one is about being a part of a community, because when the elders studied the wolf, they realized how connected they were and how much sacrifice they would do for the good of the pack. And when we live in our communities, when we have our packs, it's so important to look after each other so that no one gets left behind. Now, when I talk to our classrooms here,
Thanks.
when I talk to our classrooms here, what I end up doing is they say, the classroom right now that you are in actually is your pack right now. And then when you go home, you have your home pack, which is your family, your community. If you're a part of a sports team, that team is your pack. They rely on you and you rely on them. So definitely an amazing teaching. And the last one is of love. See, love and the eagle. Now, when the Creator made the eagle, he loved that bird. He gave this bird superpowers almost. This bird can fly the highest of all the birds in the heavens. And this bird, when we have ceremony, when we do our gatherings, our Maui-omis, we will use an eagle feather. When we're using our medicines, we use an eagle feather. Because the eagle can fly the highest in the sky, that means the eagle can fly the closest to the Creator. So when we use our eagle feathers for our ceremony, we know that the eagle feather will help bring our hopes, our dreams, our words all the way up to the Creator. And now I wanted to share a really quick song, especially for what's going on this week in terms of truth and reconciliation. And this song, I did a lot of thinking about this, and I thought, there's so many songs that I want to share. And if we had more time, I know that I'd have that opportunity. But for right now, I'm going to share this song. And it was taught to me by an elder here in Prince Edward Island. And she's teaching me right now to sing it in Mi'kmaq, but I'm really not at the point yet where I can do that. So I'm going to sing it in English, which is probably good because then everybody will know what I'm saying. Now, when I drum, I do 4 beats to start, and that recognizes all the directions and brings them to us because they know that we're celebrating them north, east, south, and west. All my children, this is for you. All my children, this is for you. I give away, I give to you. Mother Earth and her children, way oh hey ah, way oh hey ah, way oh hey ah, way oh hey ah hey oh. All my people, this is for you. All my people, this is for you. I give away, I give to you. Mother Earth and her children, way oh hey ah, way oh hey ah, way oh hey ah, way oh way ah hey oh. Walalio, and thank you so much, everyone, for having me a part of this day today. And I hope that you have a few more tools to put in your toolbox and be able to move forward in a good way. And may the path be ever present for you when you're searching for direction. Walalio, thank you.
Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for this. What great, great teachings, and what kindness that you have coming from you, from your heart. We did receive a few questions that I would like to pass on to you to see if you might be able to answer. There were many questions around the paintings that you were showing. And can you tell us a little
Aren't
bit
they
more?
beautiful?
Can you tell us a little bit more about the paintings and like what was your inspiration behind them?
Well, actually, my story, when I turned about 6 years old, no, I think it was 8 years old, I ended up moving to Winnipeg, Manitoba with my father. And I got to work at the Aboriginal Center right down on Higgins and Main in Winnipeg, Manitoba, once I graduated university. And they had a little store in there, and I think it was called Native Reflections. And I used to go in there all the time, and I just so happened to go there one day when they had a collection of artwork representing the seven sacred teachings. So this is actually beautiful artwork that was inspired by an Indigenous artist somewhere in Western Canada and bought in Winnipeg, Manitoba, and traveled all the way from Winnipeg, Manitoba to, to Charlottetown, PEI, where you can tell they're a bit older. They have some wear, and they come with me to a lot of my classroom visits, and they represent each of those teachings so well. Because even if it wasn't, the beautiful artwork, I'm pretty sure even through Zoom you can tell that the colors are just magnificent. And if that doesn't inspire an amazing story, I don't know what else would.
There, now I'm not muted.
There we go.
Julie, so a teacher shared with us that Native Reflections is still open and that you can order online.
Oh,
And the
awesome.
link was shared with the teachers on the platform today. So thank you for that.
I actually know
Um,
a lot of teachers here in Charlottetown, I think, have decided to put them in their classroom as a visual for people. And then, sometimes people our students will resonate with one of those teachings more than the others. And having them there in the classroom, if they get shy or if they're looking for courage, all they have to do is look on the walls, and those teachings are right there in front of them that can inspire them and move them forward in a good way.
Thank you, Julie. The other question has to do with why the connection with the animal and the teaching. Can you tell us something behind the animals? And are there other animals that represent, that have a meaning outside of the seven sacred teachings?
Oh my goodness,
I
yes.
know, eh?
There, that's a really big question, but it's an amazing question. I love this question. Well, we used these animals because as here in the Atlantic, and I know that these seven sacred teachings are bigger than this region, they go all across Turtle Island. So, I mean, a lot of our teachings in most Indigenous cultures will revolve around the teachings of the animals and Mother Nature, all those different things, because we spend a lot of time in nature. We connect with nature. And a lot of one of my presentations really goes on the fact that we're circular. We don't have a hierarchy like this triangle that a lot of different cultures have, where there's a top, which would be if you were the king, and then all of a sudden the ones under the king, and then the triangle gets bigger at the bottom. We're a circle, so everything has the same amount of reverence. Everything has the same, we are connected with each other. And so when we look at nature and we try to find all those teachings, I was very fortunate before all this COVID stuff to be able to go to BC. And I got to hear some of the elders talk there. And instead of some of these animals, like they have their own animals, like instead of the wolf, I remember an elder talking about an ant and how the ants work together in a group, and everything is about the group, and they use the ant instead of the wolf. So everybody, every different group will have their own sort of animal that gives them significance and meaning. And as you probably noticed, instead of the buffalo, I used the moose because the moose is more sort of significant to here in the Atlantic. Whereas if you were out west and the buffalo was your traditional animal to go and hunt, those teachings would be better used with the buffalo. So really, it depends on where you're living. The animals that give us these teachings could be more significant in one end of the country to the other end of the country. I know there's a lot of amazing raven stories from out west, and I love the raven stories. They fill my heart and they connect me. So I think my spirit has a little bit of connection out there as well. But here in the Atlantic, I mean, we do have a lot of we it's funny, about 20 years ago, I remember reading the paper, and they were talking about our eagle population here being so low and our piping plover population being so high. And if you're not from the Atlantic region, you might not know they're this itty little bird that just sort of bops around the shorelines here in PEI. Absolutely beautiful. And in the last 20 years, it's taken sort of this pendulum where our piping plover are actually now on the endangered list. Their nests are getting disturbed in the spring when they're hatching their babies, and the eagles population is just exploding and growing. I don't think there's a powwow or a Maui-Omi or a gathering here where we don't see one or two eagles flying and circling overhead. So really it's in the nature that you are around, the nature that our elders here in the Atlantic region have connected to. And it can be whatever is significant to you. I'm sure when you move up north, I mean, their animals will be a little bit different. Like instead of a bear, it might be a polar bear, like instead of like a black bear, which is in the picture. So whatever connects and resonates with you and the location that you're in, and make it belong to you. And that's sort of what we did all across Turtle Island with these.
So Julie, there are some friends of yours who are saying hello.
Aww.
Friends from Brandon that recognized you, and they're sending.
Oh
I'm not
my
going to share any
goodness.
names, but just so that you know, you have friends across the country.
I spent
Um,
many years out there, and they are wonderful people. I miss them dearly. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. I also, there's a lot of messages coming in about expressing gratitude to you and for your amazing storytelling. There is one last question. We're getting short on time. So there is one last question, if you wouldn't mind. It has to do with the drumstick and how it's made, and if you can
Mhm.
tell us about the drumstick, and then I'll close.
Definitely. Oh, this is amazing. So this is my drumstick. Now I have a few different kinds of ones. Now this one is made with a wooden stick, and I think they varnished it and made it all beautiful. And then make it a little bit smaller here so that we can wrap our leather. And we usually use like a cotton batten on the inside, and then we glue it to the stick. And then remember, as I was telling you about the moose and the muscle of the moose becoming like our thread, because we didn't have thread back then, and a lot of our traditional crafters will still use our traditional things. So this right here is sinew, and sinew is the muscle of a moose. Now, on that same thing, everything has to sort of come from nature. So we have the wood, and this is the leather that is the top of it, which would be like the skin of the moose, the softer part of the skin. And sometimes if I don't have my drum with me, I think this might be sort of neat to share really quick. I have my turtle rattle, and I bring it out once in a while. And this has the raw hide, the leather from the inside of the moose, and it's put together. You can see the sinew again here, right? Isn't that amazing? You can see the 13 spots on the inside of a shell, as I was telling you. And then here is the wooden stick again, connected with the sinew. And inside of this one is little rocks from the beach. I have other rattles that are a little bit softer, and I think those are made of shell, but this one is this. So hopefully If you ever are interested, I know I got these ones from this amazing Indigenous organization, this company in Quebec, and they're called Tribal Spirit. And they're the ones that you can buy these beautiful drumsticks from, as well as the tie-dyed drums that we have here today. They're absolutely beautiful. And since my theater group, we have about 16 young people in our theater group. So I have about 26 drums usually in the back of my van at any time so that we can just burst out in drumming wherever we are.
Well, thank you so much, Julie. Thank you for your teachings. Thank you for your kindness. And thank you everyone for being with us. Just a couple of programming notes for tomorrow and Friday. Of course, tomorrow, Orange Shirt Day, the very first ever National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Some of you may not be going to school tomorrow, and we wish you a very peaceful National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. Hopefully, you'll have some time to reflect on that day and its significance. We also want to point out that tomorrow evening, there will be the national broadcast, the first ever national broadcast on the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. It'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and it'll repeat again 8 p.m. Western part of the country at Central Mountain Pacific at 8 p.m. your time. And if you're in the Atlantic, it'll be at 9 p.m. And 9:30 Newfoundland. I hope I got that right. But you can look up on your television to see. It'll be on CBC, on Société Radio-Canada, and on APTN. And we'll be hearing from First Nations, Inuit, and Métis from across the country. So hopefully you'll be able to tune in. Tomorrow our program continues as well, similar to today. So for those of you who are in class and you're able to join, we look forward to connecting with you. And of course, there's also the other sessions coming up in about half an hour from now. So thank you, Julie. Thank you, everyone, for allowing us into your classrooms today. And we wish you a great day. Take care, everyone. So long.